This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovators Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. We are here in the mobile studio, picking and talking to a variety of technologies and innovations. I was at an event recently and came across an innovation. I guess I would describe it as an unexpected innovation at an event. Typically, the events I go to, it's technologies like PCs and workstations and laptops and mobile phones, etc. But this is one that was totally unexpected. So, John, welcome to Killer Innovations. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, your company, Willow, is... I came around this event. I came around the corner, and I'm looking at breast pumps. Right?
That is right.
Not the typical product I would expect to see at an event that I'm attending. And you and I got a chance to talk, and I talked with your team because I'm intrigued by kind of the non-obvious industries. We always think about innovation as being, computers and mobile phones and another app, and now the new buzzword for 2018 is AI everything, and voice control everything. And here you are, your team, you particularly, are innovating in a segment of the population that, one, gets highly overlooked and hasn't been innovated in like forever.
Right.
So what was the motivation? We'll get to the product here in a little bit, but I want to walk us through your background and what was the motivation to go transform an industry that hasn't been transformed in decades.
Well, so I'm a mechanical engineer, and I spent my entire career in med devices, and lately I've been in an incubator, and this incubator looks at unmet needs. And we spent some time, and we started thinking, hey, let's think about moms and babies. And I talked with my wife, and my wife said, hey. The next day she thought about it, we talked, and next day at lunch she said, hey, you remember how bad breast pumping was? And I was like, yeah, it was pretty bad, wasn't it? Our kids are a little older. Yeah. I had to think back. And it was kind of fortuitous. The next day or two, she sent me an article in the New York Times about how breast pump, wouldn't it be great if a breast pump could be as quiet as a Prius and as cool as an iPhone? And I was like, and you're like, whoa, there's something into this, something here. And so I talked with my co-founder, Josh Mackauer, and we said, hey, let's really dig into this. And talked to a lot of moms, and it was amazing what we learned about this area of how something hasn't changed in like 25, 30 years.
Well, in my case, my kids are, adults with their own families, right? But watching my two daughters, I have 5 grandkids, and seeing what they've experienced with trying to breast pump and getting the timing right, and the discomfort if they haven't pumped, and then just the whole mechanics of it and the bulkiness of it, the discomfort of it. I'm just amazed that nobody else has looked at this space.
That's exactly what we thought. So we started thinking about this, and as part of this process at Experiment, we're like, hey, let's do some research. Let's talk to moms. Looking at reading scientific and clinical articles, but the big thing was talking to moms. And we wanted to be broad. We didn't want to come in knowing that it was exactly going to be a breast pump, but that was really interesting. And we said, okay, moms, tell me what it's like to be a mom, and what are the things you love and or are challenging. And moms were like, well, it's sometimes hard to put a car seat in. Strollers could be better. But what I really hate is my breast pump. And it was a signal. It's like, little boom, big signals. I hate my breast pump. And everyone kind of knows that breast milk is important. And then as you talk to these moms and they start talking about all these issues, you realize what they're going through and what they're enduring and what they want to do, the best things for their moms, for their children. Right. I'd say the top 3 things that these moms were telling us were, hey, I don't have my hands. I am stuck to a wall. And I have no dignity or discretion when I'm able to pump. And those were like the top 3 items. And then you dig in, we researched, we looked at all the pumps, and we tried to understand. And for those who don't know, pumping, for moms. And everyone I think understands that breast milk's important for moms
Right.
and for the babies and nature's vaccine and development and all that. And what you don't realize is when you're away from your baby for a while, you need to pump the milk. And the state of the art was your mom's got to take off their clothes, put on essentially these things that look like air horns, and with bottles dangling from them, with tubes coming out of them. And so you can imagine, you can understand they feel really exposed. And moms were telling us stories about, I'm somewhere public, I need to go find a room. I'm on a plane, I got to go into you hear all these stories about being in a bathroom.
Yeah, I've
closets.
I've heard that from my daughter.
Yeah.
Happened to sit in a public bathroom stall.
Yeah.
In order to pump.
So once we sort of realized and said, okay, there's clearly a need, and we love when there's something like hasn't changed in technology for 25, 30 years. You go, there's got to be a better way. And so we noodled on this, Josh and I, and said, well, probably, talking to moms what they want. It's like, well, maybe it could fit in the bra and keep your clothes on, and maybe you can transport your milk with you. And then the trick was, well, how are you going to make a pump that's that small and can do all these things?
And be quiet.
Exactly.
So therefore, yeah.
That's right. So all this was sort of in the need statement, as you talk about what you're trying to figure out. And then one day we were watching this awesome video. It was an ultrasound image of a baby nursing at a mom's breast. And as we watched the flow and the motion of the baby's jaw, it hit like, wait, this is how we can make. We're like, that's the mechanism that's going on. This baby has a small mouth. The way they swallow, there's these valves moving back and forth. And I'm incredibly excited, ran back to the lab, threw some tubing and got a pressure gauge and some valves, and I started pushing this tubing around, and holy cow, I created a latch like babies do when they suck onto a breast. And I was able to vary the pressures, the vacuum levels, just like a baby. And it was amazing. Because today's breast pumps don't latch, but all babies latch. Every mom will tell you when they're done, they got to pop off their baby like a suction cup. And no pumps do that today. So with that sort of spark, ran the Radio Shack. Radio Shack was, solvent down the street. Bought an Arduino, laser cut some parts, and we made a first prototype that on the bench did what we wanted to do.
Amazing. In any case, in the innovation space, we would refer to that as biomimicry. You took the natural activity of the baby and turned it into this pump or this mechanism to pump. I'm interested in the fact that most innovators are out there and they're innovating the product for themselves, right?
Right.
It's always like, why'd you build this product? Well, I built it for me. I'd want it, and therefore, if I want it, there must be lots of other people who want it, right? In this case, you're not building it for yourself.
No.
So it's always this challenge of how do you empathize with the market that's not you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And something like this, especially I am clearly not able to completely empathize or truly empathize. So you started with my wife. Sandra told me about her experience, and then from there I went to friends who are moms, and then from there we searched out current nursing moms. And so this whole process from day one has all been talking to moms. And when we started designing, we talked to moms, and we've always gotten feedback from moms.
Well, it was interesting because when I ran into you at this event, one of the women on your team is a nurse and is nursing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And she's standing in the event. You're showing me the breast pump. I look at, and she's like, well, I've got mine. And she just pulls a little bit back on her top, and you can see the top of it. And I'm like, you couldn't tell.
Yes.
Couldn't hear it. You couldn't see it.
Right.
It wasn't visually obvious that she was pumping while she's standing there talking with potential markets and partners and all that kind of thing.
That's exactly right. I mean, that came out really clear when we talked to moms. It said I want my hands, I'd like to be able to move around, not tied into a wall with a plug. And I want discretion and dignity. And ideally, discretion isn't I'm going to go into a closet. Discretion is I want to be able to pump outside, anywhere near people. And so with that feedback and we constantly work with moms, it's like, hey, the shape of this pump needs to be natural. Right. So many things, so many devices and pumps today, they're cold, they're mechanical.
They're hard plastic.
Yeah, they're med devices, right? They're cold. And this is a very personal product.
Right.
That's really came clear. And so it's like, hey, how do you make it warm? How do you make it soft? How do you make it something that a woman will appreciate? And because they're women too. They're moms and they're women. This is something they want to have, right? And as much as you can want a device, right? And so that was always there from the get-go.
Perfect. We're going to continue on the conversation because I want to get into a little bit more about where Willow's at, where this product is at. So when we come back from this quick commercial break, I want to pick up that conversation. So don't go anywhere. We're going to continue on our conversation on a technology and innovation that I don't think we've ever covered on this show before. So stay right where you're at. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. We're talking with Chang, co-founder of Willow. So give us a little bit more. We talked in the last segment kind of the inspiration and the background to building this product. Talk now about Willow and where you're at and why you're so different than anybody else out there in this space.
Yeah, we're excited. Willow, our first product at Willow is the Willow breast pump. It's the world's first truly all-in-one breast pump that fits inside the bra. And we talked about where the idea came from, and after talking to moms about making a product that could fit in the bra and be warm and something that allowed them to walk around and pump with dignity and discretion, we like lots of startups, we raced in and designed it and proved that it could work on the bench, made it small, worked hard on the industrial design and the parts and the control systems. And we're excited because now we have a product. And we've had a couple thousand moms use it to date. We are excited about the response we've had from these moms who are using the product. And it's available today.
So it is available today, so people can order it.
That's
sold
correct.
by you directly? Is it through others? Or?
Right now it's sold directly through us on willowpump.com. That's the channel right now.
Okay. And how long has it been available now?
It was available late last year.
Okay.
And as a startup.
So late 17.
Yes, late 17. And as like in true startup funk fashion, we were racing to meet demand, and so building up our supply chain and our production, and we're excited that we're there now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I always get people always ping me when they start ramping up hardware. Given my background at HP at doing 40 million laptops, I think I've gotten more comments about supply chain and hardware. Like software app is easy. Hardware is hard.
Yes, I've heard that a few times.
It is really well. Now you have the
and I've lived it now. That's right.
You have that experience, supply chain parts, and then you get to deal with the reverse supply chain of support and maintenance. Is it available just in the U.S. now? Or
that's correct. It's FDA cleared in the U.S., and that's where we're distributing right now.
Okay. What was the FDA process like for this?
It was actually pretty straightforward. It's not our first rodeo. I've been in the med device for over 25 years, and we have a great team at Willow that has that experience. And so it's about developing the product. It's about testing it appropriately. We did all the tests that the FDA wanted, and we put in a submission. They had a couple questions, and we answered them, and lickety split, we got cleared. So it was a lot of work. I don't want to make it sound like it was easy. It was definitely a lot of work, but it went smoothly because we have a fantastic team.
Well, it's also having the experience.
Sure.
Somebody who's not had to go through the whole medical device process. Plus, this is a non-invasive device too. So
That's right.
It's got a little bit of a lower bar, and with FDA approvals, it's the case where it's similar to a device that's already been through the process.
That's correct.
I guess,
we have a predicate.
Right. Yeah. That's I always call it coattailing. I'm not a medical guy. You're coattailing on somebody else that's already gone through.
They've set the bar, and we'd certainly meet that bar of testing and absolutely. But to your point, it's also anticipating, right? With experience, you sort of get a sense of where the questions might come or the concerns, and you want to get in front of that. And so we had a great team that did that.
Exactly. So share with us just a few of the feedback that you've received from some of the mothers that have been using the product.
It's been really humbling and exciting, and all those sorts of things to hear back from moms. And one thing that we accomplished with this pump is that it's really quiet as part of the discretion and dignity. And so to hear back from moms that in the holiday season it was so quiet that before they'd have to sit in a room and pump for 30 minutes, and then join their family, but then actually say, hey, I just went into the room to put my pumps on and I joined my family. That was amazing to hear talk about going on a date night and saying, hey, I went and saw a movie in the movie theater with my husband,
Pumping.
and I pumped during the movie, and no one's throwing popcorn at me or shushing me, right? There's I'm on a call, and I don't have to hit mute so that people know that I'm pumping. But the most gratifying thing I've heard from some of these moms is thanking me, thanking the company, because they said, hey, I know I would have stopped pumping. I would have stopped breastfeeding. Yeah, it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it, because breastfeeding and breast pumping is hard. And our
it's amazing what women go through for their children.
It is, and our goal was like, hey, can we make it a little easier, help them balance their lives a little bit more, and with some of these moms, they've told us that's you hit the mark, and like I said, that's what the entire company is all about, and wanting to help these moms, and it gives me goosebumps when I hear these stories from these moms.
Okay, so I'm now going to ask you the question you probably won't answer, which is, what's next?
It's kind of all about the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And, we are a mom first company. We are going to dedicate ourselves to moms, and we're listening to moms right now. So the next products will be based on the feedback we get from moms and what they need as mothers. And so we're working on a few things. You're right. I'm not going to disclose it all, but I will tell you it's from moms.
You're a CTO. I'm a former CTO. And I guess I played as a journalist on TV. And I was always on the opposite side of getting the same question. I'm like, I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Right, right.
But it's interesting, that you found your focus, right? A lot of companies don't really grab the focus. And I commend you on having that crystal clear focus and culture around solving real problems for a market that gets overlooked a lot. So if people want to follow you and what's going on at Willow, what's the best place for them to find you?
The best place is our website, willowpump.com, and there's a lot of information there for moms to learn about us.
You active on social media?
We are. Okay. We are. We're a startup company, and so we're firing all that up right now.
Good. So if you haven't checked it out, whether this is a product for you or not, follow Willow, what they're doing. I'm telling you, it's inspirational from the standpoint of identifying the problem, focusing on really capturing the upfront, really understanding the market, even when you're not that target market, that target customer for it, and listening closely, right? Don't go in thinking you have all the answers, right? It's those, it's the twists and turns and, finding the things that, the unexpected that really unleashes a great product in this case. And like I said, this was a product. I met John and his team just coming around a corner at an event and seeing a product I totally was not expecting to see at the event, and I had to stop and say, okay, what is this? And having had the experience with my daughters, with their children, and my wife breastfed also, but that was 30 years ago. But watching my daughters and the struggles they've got, I think what you're doing and what Willow team is doing is just fantastic. And congratulations.
Thank you.
We will be watching, and at some point we'll have you back on the show and give us all an update on the success at Willow. And I want you to let me know what that next product is when you're ready to talk about it.
Will do. Looking forward to it.
And with that, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. We're continuing our look and discussions around innovations and creativity from a variety of different industries and a variety of different products. So now we've got Justin Fishkin in the chair today. So Justin, give us a little bit of background on yourself.
So I was born in D.C., lived there today after moving back about 10 years ago. Went to Duke, started my career in investment banking, then moved over to the investing side, and then sort of had an epiphany in the early 2000s about being interested in impact investing in the environment, particularly met Richard Branson and joined Carbon War Room, where we were seeking to disrupt massive industries by building profitable low carbon solutions that could scale quickly, and that's how I met the founder and CEO of Locomotors, Jay Rogers, and I joined him a couple weeks after I met him.
So, talk a little bit about Locomotors. I'm not sure everybody knows the background on the company and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Locomotors it's an exciting story. Jay was a Marine in Iraq, a U.S. Marine who had a couple buddies get blown up in a 30-year-old vehicle, and he had been a student of open source software, and his grandfather had been in the vehicle industry, and so he had this passion for vehicles, but had also studied the software world and had this epiphany that it could happen to hardware, that open source could actually bring vehicles to market faster than 7 or 10 year cycle times in the military and in the consumer market where a lot of technology trickles down to. And so he told his general at the time about this idea, and his general said, well, you got to go to business school if I'm going to sign your papers. And he went to Harvard and wrote the plan there and won a business plan competition. And our first investors were professors there. That was 2007. And the rest is history as far as what we've done. I think some of the exciting points in that journey have been the world's first crowdsourced car, the Rally Fighter, sort of known as the car the internet built, that took a year to bring to market, which is about a 5 times faster than had been done, and it was done at about 100th the cost, so for $3 million versus $2-3 billion to build a massive factory.
And how many contributors contributed to that open source project?
I believe there were about 7,000.
Right. And I think that's the impressive piece, right? Because you get a lot of involvement of those people who are involved with open software.
Right.
The open hardware movement is still pretty nascent, and particularly at that time.
Yeah, it was the maker movement then.
Right, yeah, it was really the makerspace
Right.
type of thing.
Right.
But the makerspace are really kind of, armchair Edisons,
Right.
with little things in the corner of their garage. But in your case, you got contributions from people that had from all walks of life.
Yep.
The enthusiasts, hobbyists, all the way to
Engineers.
really core engineers who are, if you knew their names, were very well known in the space, and everything in between.
That's
It was
right.
a very interesting community that came together.
That's right. It's been very exciting. I think now we've gone from that core group of 7,000 to adding I think 500 community members a day. The last I heard, and that's been from the partners we've brought on. To be honest, so after the Rally Fighter, the DARPA came to us and asked if we could design with the crowd a vehicle for a specific region of Afghanistan that was up-armorable, could go upwards of 100 miles an hour and evacuate 3 soldiers in full gear in the prone. And we ran that challenge, and it took 3 months from concept to delivering it to President Obama and then taking it over to Afghanistan to start testing.
Wow.
And that was 2011. It's when it really came, I think, full circle for Jay, who had been over in theater and had this idea.
So he actually could see the whole loop and actually deliver a solution
Yeah,
for his buddies.
I think
on
so.
the
I mean,
front
I
line.
certainly looking at him and looking at that first step can
Right.
see it, and
Yeah.
I think, and I'm sure Jay, upon looking back, really does. And then from there, we've done bicycle, electric bikes where you could change it from a gas powered to an electric powered bicycle, and we've done a world's first crowdsourced motorcycle, a pizza delivery vehicle for Domino's. We've done projects for BMW and others, but then the next step of the business was GE gave us a call. Jeff Immelt called and said, "I saw what you did with the Rally Fighter. Can you do this in my appliances division? Because I have this issue where my best product guys or engineers will come to me and say, I have this great idea, and it's going to take us 6 months to develop it, and it's going to cost $6 million, and we're going to sell 600,000 units the first year." The numbers were a little different, but you get the idea. And he said 50% of the time, it costs $12 million, takes 12 months, and we only sell 6,000 units the first year, and I lose a lot of money on those. So the other 50% of the time, when they're right, within 3 months, somebody else, usually in Asia, has reverse engineered my product, has put better technology in it, and is offering it at a better price point. He said, I lose on those too. Can you help me get more at-bats and not build the big factory to make the product before I know there's a market?
Right.
And Jay who was very smart about it and said, sure, but we need to build a microfactory. And for those who don't know, microfactories are one of our 2 core parts of our business. It's the co-creation bit we just talked about, which is open source, and we pay royalties to those contributors to our projects if we use their ideas. And then the microfactory part is small volume production in local markets where those products are demanded. And so we built a microfactory in Louisville, Kentucky, outside of Appliances Park, and increased their commercialization speed by 24 times in a year.
Wow.
And then they were able to sell that business after not having been able to do it a few years earlier. And I think there were a lot of partners involved, but that was the first time we realized that we could use our open platform that we've been using for vehicles for other companies.
Completely.
And you'll be interested to know, so we brought on Airbus, and most recently we brought on HP.
Oh, really?
And we're doing a great Mars terraforming and sort of dream project with them. And I think, given their move into 3D,
that's the Shane Wall project,
right? Yeah, and then after the first, we did this crowdsourced vehicle. Then in 2014, we became best known for 3D printing, the world's first 3D printed car. And we did that at IMTS.
Which car was that?
The Strati.
Okay.
And we did that on the show floor at IMTS. Drove it off the floor after never having done it before. It took us 44 hours, and 50 components, which really simplified the vehicle. And then most recently, we're best known, and our first product to ever have global demand is Ollie, which is a driverless shuttle that we have here at CES. Yep. And in particular,
I know the Ollie very well because we worked with you guys for using the Ollie in our Futures video.
That's right.
For the Near Future Better Place.
In DC.
Starring, we did the DC event.
That's where we met the first time.
Where we met the first time. And then we worked with you to actually digitally create visually 3 Ollies simultaneously navigating streets in Nashville.
Yeah.
With the movie stars Rance Howard, Ron Howard's dad,
right,
who just recently passed away. It was Rance Howard's last film project with us, talking about the near future and aging in place. And we highlighted the Ollie as being a great vehicle option, future vehicle option of giving people independence, in later in life where you don't want them with the car keys anymore.
Bingo. I mean, that's really what accessible Ollie, which we launch here, is all about. Also, speaking of the Asian markets, like Japan, Singapore, Korea, they have aging populations, and there's a huge demand, as do we, but not to quite to the extent.
Because we highlight the Ollie in the film, it gets shown, I think, very well. People definitely react, and a lot of people ask us, "Is that a real product?" We're like, "Yes, it says Ollie on the side. Go search for it. You can find it online." But you're right, though. The amount of interest in, autonomous vehicles. But I think what's interesting from your work, though, is through that crowdsourcing and collecting all that input, you're collecting the input from people who are going to be also the ultimate users. Not only are they contributing the engineering, but they're also contributing their own personal interest and personal passions. And if you look at the Ollie, particularly the accessibility side of it, it's got things that most companies would not even think of because they're not that close to, for instance, the accessibility side of it. And I think that comes from the collective crowdsourced knowledge.
And thank you for saying that. It's really what we exist to do, is to bring technology to market faster than others.
Right.
And then once we've proven it's possible, that opens up the markets for the technology partners we're working for, and we can cut deals to take royalties once things go to scale. And so we live in this world where, because we enable or because we use digital manufacturing, so the ones and zeros that you and I are trading or in a CAD model in the cloud now can go to a third place and make something in unit volumes of just one.
Exactly.
And so our cost to try something out is very low. But the most exciting thing I think about things like Ollie for me is, because we're local, we can upgrade the technology.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick up our conversation and talk more. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. We're talking with Justin here, continuing our conversation about really this unique approach that the company has developed around this, as you called it, open sourcing hardware type of a strategy being applied. You've done it automobiles and motorcycles, military vehicles, now with appliances. What's next?
So I think there's some markets it makes, we've identified markets where it makes sense. And I think generally it's hardware that is bigger than the shoebox is the way we feel about it.
Right.
Stuff that's not as easily shipped around the world. And I think what's next is we really, as a company, need to walk the walk. And I'm not suggesting that that we're all talk. I think we've done really impressive things, proven a lot of people wrong, and that this model has a lot of potential. And I think now we need to scale it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the process now, and all the indicators are good that we're having success. But what I want to see is us building microfactories, 50 or 100 of them around the world, because for too long I believe that communities have been exporting jobs to import vehicles in particular, and other hardware that's relevant locally, and they've been exporting wealth to import fuel. And the reason I joined to begin with, when I was working for Carbon War Room, was I was helping some island nations come off of fossil fuels rapidly because they have feedstocks on island, and they pay a 40% premium to import diesel. And so that meant there was a delta where to work in to use new technologies today that might not be economically viable in New York City, let's say.
Right.
And I really believe that the future of community and of local means that people are going to have high value, or we're going to give them the capability to have high value advanced manufacturing jobs to create the products that they want locally. And I think we could solve a lot of the remaining issues that globalization may have caused in the early days of outsourcing.
Right, and it's interesting because I know MIT for years have had this project going on where they're doing this remote micro manufacturing, right? So they build these little manufacturing sites, and a lot of it in developing countries. I do, my wife and I do a lot of startup investment in Rwanda, as an example. You talk about the 40% diesel problem. It's a huge problem in Rwanda. But those are all like, parts replacements. I have a coupler that breaks, and I can't buy the coupler. I got to have it flown in from Europe. So a coupler that costs 25 cents at Home Depot here is all of a sudden now $12 or $15, those types of things. In your case, you're talking about full product.
Right.
I can build a washer or a dryer or a car or a motorcycle or a bicycle or whatever.
Right. I think that communities often have unique needs for their vehicles, and the issue is that the big OEMs need to make products that work everywhere for everyone for a long time.
Scale equals economic benefit.
Well, and you need to amortize your cost of a $3 billion factory over many units and keep bringing your marginal cost down. For us, theoretically, the cost of building one digitally direct digitally manufactured unit is the same as the millionth, and so. We're never going to build a million of anything because the scale guys are good at that. What we empower, and I think what you'll see in the future from other businesses is empowering economy of scope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I think, what's going to differentiate manufacturers going forward. We can do many, many different things, and we can keep iterating on those things because there's a local manufacturing capability.
Well, yeah, because typically you had to do purpose-built manufacturing. Like at HP, we had factories working with our partners, whether it was Compal or Fox or whoever. This factory built, laptops. This factory builds mobile phones. This factory builds. In your case, you're building these, I'll call them micro factories, whatever the term is. But I can do a washer on Monday. I can do a car on Tuesday. I can do a bicycle on Wednesday.
That's right. And I think, that's a little more in the future in the sense that I think with each microfactory, there will be several products that are in demand locally. And I think as direct digital manufacturing improves and that technology and the materials, the multi-materials.
Not only that, you need the designs, right? So it's almost like, building the app store for physical goods.
Right.
How do you build that catalog? So, and then allowing the locals to then tailor it to them, right?
It's a bit like FedEx Kinko's,
Exactly.
It's a capability where you used to have a big printer in your office,
and nobody does that anymore.
Right.
Nobody has that anymore. So, hey, real quick as we wrap up our conversation, if people want to track what you guys are doing, what's the best place for them to find you?
Come to localmotors.com and check us out, and then also our crowdsourced platform, our co-creation platform, is at launchforth.io.
Launchforth.io. So I'll make sure all those show links are in the show notes, so you can hop over to killinnovations.com, and we'll have all the links there to make it real easy. Because if you're driving in your car, do not try to write down the URL. It doesn't work. It does not work very well.
If you're in an Ollie, you can actually
if
you can do that.
If you happen to have an Ollie, call and let me know. Because Rance, as I was saying before, with Rance Howard, unfortunately he's recently passed away. Ron Howard's dad, who starred in this film, who rode in the Ollie, could not stop talking enough about it. He kept pinging us about when could he get one to get around LA, and unfortunately he's passed on. But it made the impression. Great product. I think this open source platform hardware approach is something that's critical. And I think you're right. It does kind of reverse the outsourcing, this quote, outsource to low cost manufacturing piece has been great. So as we wrap up the show, appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule on a Sunday to spend it with us. We are now available on Spotify and iHeart also. So still over on iTunes and Google Play and YouTube and SoundCloud and all those places. But recently, Spotify and iHeart have also picked up the show, so you can subscribe to us over there. If you have a guest or a question or a topic you would like to have covered here in the show, just drop me a note over at phil@killerinnovations.com, and we'll take a look at it and see if we can't put a show out on that. So we want to make sure that we're delivering the content that you find useful. Remember, we are all about helping all of us as innovators take our ideas and turn them into real. As a result, don't let the innovation antibodies get you down. Don't let the critics derail you from delivering what you're passionate for. We need your ideas. We need your ideas in the marketplace. So go out there, execute, and go change the world. And thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.